Hello Booktube, and welcome to day 14 of Vlogmas. We're going to do a random bookshelf tour. I've already glanced at the bookshelf in question, and I know already what you're going to see, which is that this bookshelf, and it's not alone here in Hyde Cottage, this bookshelf perfectly illustrates the need for a total top-to-bottom reworking of my library. And you will see why. We're just going to go through these and let's see what we have. The first one is the trade paperback reprint of Rachel Caddish's The Weight of Ink, a historical novel set half in the 17th century and half in the early 20th century. The sort of the in the style of A.S. Byatt's Possession, sort of the historical and then personal threads that connect two different women, two completely different eras. And it has the deckled edges and the French flaps. A very nice trade paperback of a novel that I really liked. I didn't wildly love it. I just really liked it. And it's the first thing that we're doing here. That it's not with paperback fiction. It's not even exclusively with fiction. It's not with historical fiction. Then we have this, Denis Donahues' Words Loan. This is his study of T.S. Eliot. I read it and really liked it when it first came out. And those of you who've been watching my videos have noticed that I've had a few pennies drop when it comes to T.S. Eliot. I've been finding great books about him. I received two gorgeous trade paperback reprints of his poetry with great critical apparatus in the mail. And this is a poet that I've never really liked. And I've viewed all of those different pennies dropping as a sign to reapproach him in 2019. I often do that. And often I will do it in just that way. I will wait and see if the tea leaves look like they are pointing me at a particular writer in 2019, and then I'll just go ahead. So I'm going to do that. But this is not with literary studies in my book room. Nor is it with biographies of Eliot or anybody else, nor is it with poetry, nor is it with all the Eliot books together, prepared and ready for 2019. It's here next to The Weight of Ink. What's next here? Okay, this is by K.D. Edwards. It's The Last Son, book 1 in his tarot sequence. I really liked this book. I really liked the cover. I just like the whole thing about it. This is from Peer, the folks at Peer or Pyre. So when I did my last cleansing of my collection, I kept this. I kept my copy of it, but it's not with the other science fiction books. Not with the paperbacks in that section either. It's just here. What's next here? Oh, okay, great. This is by Moshe Sakal. This is The Diamond Setter, a fantastic contemporary gay novel set mostly in Jaffa, an incredibly old city that I have loved. Just a jeweler there who is living a relatively normal life, and when an immigrant on the run from, it turns out, a whole bunch of different reasons, sweeps into his life and changes everything. And we get a look at what the book sort of, the cover copy seriously, but then the book sort of tongue-in-cheek refers to as Jaffa's vibrant gay scene. And it's everything you want, a novel to be in terms of immersing you in a number of different worlds that are totally alien to your own. Just terrific. And yet, there is no shelf for gay fiction. I have plenty. There is no shelf for paperback contemporary fiction. No shelf for this year. It's next to science fiction. And I guarantee you the next thing will not be anything close to what this is. So let's see what it is. Okay, yeah, this is YA. This is Kim Leggett's The Unfortunates. Don't think we ever saw this on this channel. Look at that for a cover, huh? But you see the crest there of the boys' school. It's about the privileged scion of a wealthy, and it turns out nefarious family who gets his way in everything and then doesn't, and then hits a wall. It's YA. It's very good, very smart, doesn't talk down to anybody. Just the way I like YA to be. No idea what it's doing here. Let's see what the next one is. Okay, all right. This is a Simenon novel. This is Maigret Enjoys Himself. One of the Penguin is doing. See, they all look like that on the spine. Penguin is doing a whole front to back reprint with new translations and beautiful new covers of all of Simenon's Maigret novels. And that's just an epic undertaking that I don't think they're selling enough, because it's really quite good. It's really a decided improvement. These things deserve to be just a shelf in your mystery library if you like these books. And I don't really see how you couldn't. They're not, you know, they're not Elizabeth George, but they're not Aunt Domitty either. They're actually quite good. This one is wonderful, where Maigret decides to take a vacation. He's the hardest working police inspector in Paris, and he decides to take a vacation. And he and his long-suffering Madame Maigret are going to go to the seaside, but then they decide to stay in Paris and instead just do all the kinds of things that they haven't done since they were young and courting each other. They're going to pretend that Paris is a new city to them. It's actually quite delightful. And it works. It's working just fine. And Maigret decides she and his doctor extract from him an ironclad promise that he will not go back to the office, that he will not just dip in, because they know what he's like. That if he goes there, he'll get right embroiled in a murder mystery again and have no relaxation. So instead, he agrees. So instead of doing that, he buys newspapers every day. And it turns out there's a sensational murder, a woman stuffed in a cupboard, her dead, naked body stuffed in a cupboard at a doctor's office. And he starts to relish the experience of only knowing as much as the newspapers know, of being able to follow the case through different editions of newspapers, some writers better, some writers worse, as he tries to figure out what his men must be figuring out. Just delightful. One of the more successful Maigret novels, I think. Some of them are obviously on autopilot, but this one, no. Okay, all right, this is a Penguin classic. This is The Snow Was Dirty, also by Georges Simenon. This is one of his, twice as big, one of his quote-unquote serious novels. He wrote a handful of them, and they were quite good. So it's great that Penguin's doing it. Okay, this, of course, goes right along with Maigret and Simenon. This is Jim Dwyer and Kevin Flynn. This is 102 Minutes. A nonfiction study of what life was like inside the Twin Towers after the planes hit. The story of people who made it out alive, the story, of course, inadvertently, of the people who didn't, the story of the bravest people in the world, the men and women who charged into the building to help people. And it's an amazing book. It's one of the best 9/11 books that's ever been written. I've heard rumors that 2019 is producing or will produce, or maybe 2020 will produce, a mammoth study of 9/11. Gigantic. A book that is clearly meant to be definitive, not just the socio-political stuff, not just, Al-Qaeda, just not just the Bush administration, but also the best forensic breakdown of what happened minute by minute that you could possibly get. I don't know if that book will ever materialize. It's pretty fraught material, but this one is fantastic and really underscores the fact that it's a miracle that anybody made it out of those buildings alive. Just a miracle. Yeah, and of course it makes perfect sense that it would be here, sandwiched between The Snow Was Dirty and what's this next one? The Man Who Watched the Trains Go By, another serious novel by Georges Simenon. Should go right next to The Snow Was Dirty. Instead, it's right next to 102 Minutes. What's this next one? Okay, this is another Simenon novel. This is Maigret's first case, where our hero thinks back when he was a greenhorn. By the time Simenon wrote this book, his millions and millions of readers, these things are like Tic Tacs. They're like M&M candy. You just pop them down. They're so good. They're like Regency romances, or really good, a well done, like an Elmore Leonard Western. They are the perfect palate cleanser. And by the time the author wrote this book, no one could picture Simenon as a tyro, because he is this wise, all-seeing presence. If he gets wrong-footed on a case, it's through serious effort on the part of the villains, not because he doesn't know what he's doing. He is omnicompetent. And in this case, we get to see him before he was. It's every bit as entertaining as you would think. Let's see. Okay, yeah, this makes perfect sense to be here. Yeah, this is Eric Vuillard's The Order of the Day, which is mainly about the Angelus, the legislative and military conquest of Austria by Germany in the 20th century. And it's absolutely fantastic. It made my list, my year-end list for best translations. I don't quite understand critics responding to this. I've seen lots and lots of people putting this on best fiction lists, or even if it's not on a list, referring to it as fiction. I don't know. I mean, the French are an enduring mystery to all of us, but this did not strike me as fiction. They seem to push that line more than anybody. They seem to blur that line more than anybody. They seem to have fun taunting the rest of us with how sophisticated they are. What's next here? Okay, this is YA. This is Darius the Great is Not Okay, by Adib Khorram. I believe this is his debut novel, and it's incredibly good. Just incredibly good. About a fish out of water American boy who goes home to the Middle East where he is as alien as anything. And he meets a boy there. And they strike up their relationship has many, many levels, but the level that impressed me for how the author portrays it was friendship. Before, during, and after anything else happens, this book's portrayal of two teen boys making a friendship between each other was just indelible. You will love it. And I'm sure you'll put it on your shelf right next to The Order of the Day and right next to Magret's Murder Mysteries. What's next here? Okay. All right. This is Jaron Lanier. This is 10 Arguments for Deleting Your Social Media Accounts Right Now. It's a thin book of his. I loved it. I thought it was really, really thought-provoking about what social media accounts are, what they do, who you're benefiting by keeping yours in operation. Little spoiler here, it's, according to him, it's not you. I thought it was a little Pollyanna-ish, just a little bit Chicken Little. It is perfectly possible to maintain social media accounts without them eroding your life and existence, without them contributing to the collective well-being, the collective destruction of the Western world. It's possible to do that. You just can't live on them. That's all. If you live on them, if you pack your stuff up and you no longer have an apartment, you no longer have clothes, you no longer have food or water requirements at all, you just move into your Twitter account and live there 24 hours a day, then of course it will corrode you and everyone around you. You will not be happy doing that, so you will make everyone else unhappy. I've met creatures like that. And those creatures, I suspect, are what Jaron Lanier has in mind when he goes on this little Jeremiah ad about how all of us should delete our social media accounts. I think the world would be a lot poorer place if everybody did that. So I'm glad to find it right next to YA. What's next here? Oh my God. Okay. This is more YA. This is What If It's Us? And this isn't just more YA. This is a YA novel about two boys who meet cute in New York City and ultimately try to decide whether or not fate has destined them to have a relationship. I didn't think it was successful at all. I know that it's got now a vocal fan base of people who just loved it, thought it was speaking directly to them. I read it twice, and I didn't think it was successful. I thought it was thin and manipulative, and most of all, boringly predictable. And I was not aware until I made this video right now that I have it still. I thought sure that I'd given it away. So not only is it in the wrong place, but it's here at all, which is bad enough. Okay. This is a fantastic book that came out this year, or in October, yeah. Diving for Seahorses. I don't remember. That's not its name. The publisher changed its name at the last minute. I think probably because wisely someone in their sales division thought that too many people in America would think it was about seahorses. It's actually about memory, and it's terrifically good. I don't know what it's doing here. It's scientific nonfiction. So, okay, we saw this just recently, the Inland Island. One of those great stereotypical illustrated nature guides, takes you through, season by season, animal by animal, in one particular biome. Really, really liked it. Ought to be in the nature section. There ought to be a nature section. Okay. This is Papa Goose, a book about a man who adopts a flock of geese and raises them. I don't know if I can make out pictures here. It's as you can probably tell from the premise, its setup, it's adorable. It's just wonderfully done. So it's the sort of thing just a delight to read. What's next here? Yeah, okay, all right. This is Chris Bear's Martha's Vineyard Tales, the various folklore and whatnot of the great island off the coast of Massachusetts, where I know every inch and love it well. Okay, these next things seem small. Oh, okay, they are small. Okay, these are some from a series put out by Bloomsbury called Object Lessons. This is some of them, where these tiny little books. That this one is Tumor. Then we have Jet Lag. Look at that cover. Isn't that awesome? Earth. Let's see here. This one is thick. Drone. and Password, and there are a bunch of others. Whale Song, Bookshelf, and I've had a maddening relationship with these things. I've read all the ones that I've been sent, and I don't know, too often, I guess it's endemic of any series that has just short little books like this. Some authors will just phone it in, and some of these authors do, and it's very annoying. It was annoying to me that the author of Bookshelf phoned it in, because that could have been a really good little meditation. And some of the oddest ones don't. I think there's one on hats or socks where the author doesn't phone it in. Instead, it's actually a fascinating meditation. But you never know. You can never tell. You're going to get the author at the right time in their own schedule so that they have the time to just walk around and think, what do I really think about when I think about the TV remote? Or are you going to get them when they just want, the $5,700? And so they're just going to dash something off that's 90% Wikipedia and 10% cliches, that sort of thing. You don't know. It's entirely up to timing on the author's part, and you don't know what you're going to get. I guess it's worth a gamble. I just wish more of them were successful. Let's see here. Okay. Okay. This is a great, big, heavily detailed guide to Venice. Venice and its lagoon. Originally I had an Italian version of this, and then at the battle I found an English-language translation. I imagine it makes sense that there would be an English translation of this, but it has not only street-by-street guides, but also artwork guides, architecture guides. It's a terrific one-stop book for Venice. And I imagine, a fist-sized thing like this, really durable, really hardy, that it would be a good thing to take with you. It's not made anymore. It hasn't been made in forever. When was this made? Now I'm kind of curious. I don't know if it'll even tell me. 1994. So it'll bring back memories. I don't actually need to keep it. Of course, if I'm going to keep it, I should certainly keep it right where we found it, which is on a shelf of Venice books. Next. Okay, this is Desmond Seward's book, Owl. It's about the natural history and the human history of owls. Part of the series of books here, the Free Action Press. They do them for animals, and the one for owl is the one I kept. Belongs on a nature shelf, doesn't it? Seems to. Oh God. Okay. All right. This is Janet Wortman's The Path to Somerset. This is the second book in her series about the Seymour family. This is about Edward Seymour, who was one of the most interesting Tudor figures of them all. This is a self-published historical fiction, self-published Tudor historical fiction, absolutely first-rate, just fantastic to read. The perfect illustration of two things that I always talk about. One is that if mainstream publishers knew that stuff this good was sitting in their slush pile, these authors would have contracts with, Harper or W.W. Norton. And two, that the self-publishing world is also full of gems like this. People who just decide to do this, and because the self-publishing world doesn't have the apparatus for PR that the mainstream publishing world does, you don't know about them. You should all subscribe. You should all bookmark the Historical Novel Review, for instance. Gives you hundreds and hundreds of historical novels, a lot of them self-published, and a whole bunch of other places. I'm sure there are other places that just do the patrol for like indie historical fiction. This is a case where the reader has to vigorously patrol the lists. You don't have to do that in mainstream fiction, because the list will come to you. They will be on your tables at your bookstores. But when it comes to gems like this, you'll miss it completely if you aren't actively looking for it. And I'm glad to have it. That's why I'm glad it's here with the historical fiction. Oh, right, okay. Lovely Apollo editions of Christina's Dead, The Man Who Loved Children, and Haiti Fox, Her Luck. Two beautiful paperback editions, prettier than any Christina's Dead I could ever find in hardcover or mass market paperback. Very nice. Okay, this is the movie cover of Call Me By Your Name, one of the rare instances when the movie cover is actually good enough to keep. Very evocative, not the usual body pile of actors or whatever. Contemporary fiction. Yep. Oh, good Lord. Okay, this is a big surprise. The next book is also contemporary fiction. This is Friday Black by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah. Very promising first collection of stories. Very, very intelligent, very good. Belongs definitely with contemporary fiction. Yeah. And then the last book on this complaining, whinging shelf tour is Charles Gate Confidential by Scott Von Doviak. This is his debut novel about the Gardner art theft heist of 1990, only he puts it back in the past so that he wants to follow the investigation and adapt it over time in the past. So he puts it back in the 1940s. So which, you know, it being back in the pre-electronic era actually makes a kind of sense, because when you read the details about the actual Gardner heist in 1990, you're baffled that it could ever happen, and it did. You think this is a museum that is chocked from basement to attic with priceless works of art. How could it have been this easy for people to steal to just have the run of the place for a whole evening? But anyway, that is the end of this random bookshelf tour for Vlogmas. And you can see, I mean, I didn't pick this intending to prove it, but the minute I glanced at it, I realized that it would be bad, and then going through it, I see it's even worse than I thought. You can see this book collection needs a thorough overhaul. I can't, if you pause the video right now, and are you able to give me a list on paper of all the books that you just saw? I'm not. So how am I supposed to find anything when the time comes for me to find it? We're going to fix all this. This is all going to be fixed. So in the meantime, I'll wrap this Vlogmas up, but I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.